Hello everyone, it's me Uncle John. Today I am going to read S4 4089 and Agatha's Ghost, written by Alan Trissell Cullen. Chapter 1, The Brain Box Club. I better begin by introducing us all. We are all in the same grade at school and sort of hanging out together. The other kids call us the Brain Box Club. Sometimes they make fun of us because they think we are a bit nerdy. We don't think we are nerdy though. We just like doing puzzles and solving mysteries and stuff like that. There are four of us in the Brain Box Club. I'm Sophia. Only everyone calls me Soph. I am the best writer in the club, so I get to write about all the stuff we do. Then there's Mabel. Her real name is Maria Abelesque, but that got sort of squashed together to make Mabel. Maria Abelesque, get it? Mabel is the math whiz in our class. Fige is another member in the Brain Box Club. His real name is Stuart Farmer, but we started calling him Fige because we got tired of hearing our teacher say, "For the 100th time today, Stuart Farmer, will you stop your fidgeting?" Yes, he does fidget a lot, but that's because he has all these crazy ideas for inventions and stuff like that inside his head. We call him our why don't they expert. That's because he's always saying things like, why don't they package sliced bread in a roll like toilet paper? Then you could hang it up and just tear off a slice when you needed it. That was yesterday's bright idea. Oh, why don't they number the days of the year from 1 to 365 instead of having some months with 30 days and some with 31? That way, we wouldn't need any months at all, and kids wouldn't have to learn how to spell hard words like February and December. It's not a bad idea, is it? Then there's Lori, is the best artist in our class. Rory is very good at drawing pictures of people too. Sometimes he does funny pictures of our teacher, Miss Hotham. Hotham. So that's the Brain Box Club. We wanted to have exciting adventures, and we had a big one at Laurie's and Agatha's place when she thought her house was haunted. Chapter 2, A Ghost in the House. Laurie's aunt Agatha lives in the oldest house in our town. It was first built by Laurie's great-great-grandfather, Reginald Price, the famous explorer. He was always rushing off on expeditions to Africa and the Antarctica and the Amazon in search of ancient treasure. No one really knows if he ever found any ancient treasure, but there are all kinds of stories about it. Some people believe Reginald hid treasure in the house. Now, Laurie's aunt Agatha lives in the house all by herself. She's pretty old, and the house and garden are very run down. Half the lights don't work, and at night you hear all kinds of creaks and groans. Rory's family thinks that Aunt Agatha shouldn't be living by herself. Rory's father says she'd be much better off living with her sister. She needs the company. Rory's mom says, the poor dear, she really is awfully lonely and very forgetful. But Aunt Agatha loves the old house. She brought up her keys there, and she doesn't want to leave it. Then something strange happened last week. Aunt Agatha phoned Laurie's parents in a great state. "Ghost!" she cried. "I've got a ghost in my house. It waits until I've gone to bed, and then it comes creeping through the hall. I have to sleep the whole night with the blankets over my head, and so you can't see me. It's terrible." "That's it," said Laurie's dad. "She's really lost it. It's time she moved in with her sister. She's totally losing her marbles." "No, she's not," said Rory. "He really likes his aunt Agatha. She's just lonely. Why don't I go and stay with her this weekend, just to keep her company? I'll help her see there is no such thing as ghost, then she will be all right. I don't know, began Laurie's mother. Actually, I have a better plan, interrupted Laurie, hearing how doubtful his mother sounded. The whole Brain Box Club can come with me. That'll mean Aunt Agatha will have lots of company. Chapter 3, The Haunted Library. You want us to spend the whole night in a haunted house? Shrieked Mabel. You could tell she wasn't so keen on the idea. It'll be an adventure for the Brainbox Club, said Laurie. We'll solve the mystery of Aunt Agatha's ghost. So that Friday evening, we were all on Aunt Agatha's doorstep with our sleeping bags, toothbrushes, and PJs. The house looked very spooky in the moonlight. Hello, Aunt Agatha, said Laurie. We have come to stay the night with you. These are my friends, Mabel, Soph, and Fitch. Oh, Aunt Agatha smiled vaguely. That's nice. I'll put you all in the attic room. It had a lovely view. We're going to see if we can catch our ghost, said Fitch. He was very excited about the ghost. Aunt Agatha stopped smiling. It comes nearly every night now, she said, leading us into the hallway. Usually, it goes straight to the library. It is as if it's looking for something. I think it might be the ghost of my great-grandfather, Reginald Price. And Agatha had pizza delivered for dinner. After we finished eating, we all went into the library. It was a big room with stone tiles on the floor. At one end was a brick fireplace. Above the fireplace was a huge painting of Reginald Price, the famous explorer. He seemed to have quite a nice face, but there was something odd about his eyes. It was as if he was looking straight at you, no matter where you went in the room. Around the walls of the library were rows and rows of shelves, full of very old and dusty-looking books. Mabel sneezed, and Rory said to her, I hope you're not allergic to dust. Just ghost, said Mabel, looking around nervously. I've never seen so many books, said Fitch. They belong to my great-great-grandfather, Reginald Price, explained Laurie. He even wrote some of them. They're all about hunting for treasure or looking for gold. Meanwhile, Fitch was looking at some books on the wall. Then, turning to Aunt Agatha, he asked, Have you read any of these books over here lately? No, dear, not for a long time. In fact, I haven't taken a book off any of these shelves for at least 10 years. Then that's funny, said Fitch, taking one off the shelf. Because someone has been looking at them. There is not a speck of dust on them. Really? Quivered Aunt Agatha, beginning to look really worried. Do you think the ghost has been reading my book? I don't know, replied Fitch as he turned and looked at the books again. Chapter 4, Mabel Disappears. Later that night in the attic, none of us could get to sleep. We were all too nervous and excited. Fitch has brought up a pile of books from Aunt Agatha's library. Doing some bedtime reading? Asked Mabel. I'm looking for clues. These are the books the ghost was reading. Ghosts don't exist, shouted Mabel, annoyed. If there was a ghost, it wouldn't read books. Then who did? Maybe Aunt Agatha did and then forgot, I suggested. After all, Brody said his family thinks she's very forgetful. Maybe she had a plumber or someone in to fix something. Maybe he liked reading, so he took a look at some of the books. Or maybe there really is a ghost, said Fitch. Mabel was beginning to get upset about all this talk about ghosts. This is just such a crazy idea, she said. I want to go home. This house is cold and drafty, and this room is a mess. Just look at how you have left your clothes. They are all over the floor. Why don't you hang them up for us then, said Rory. He meant it as a kind of joke, but Mabel wasn't in a mood for jokes. I'm not your servant, she said, but she picked the clothes up all the same and stomped over to the big closet on the other side of the room with them. Suddenly, Fitch jumped up. Look what I found in this old book, he shouted. It's the plans for this house, said. And guess what? There's a secret passageway. Brody and I rushed over to look. Fitch was right. Secret passageways were marked on the plan. One looked like it went right down to the basement from the attic. Then there was a tunnel from the basement to the woodshed out in the garden. Come and look at this, Mabel, said Rory, but Mabel didn't reply. That's funny, said Fridge. Mabel, Mabel! But Mabel still didn't answer. We rushed over to the closet. Mabel had disappeared. He was hanging out clothes in the closet, said Laurie. Looking in the closet, our clothes were there, but Mabel was not. Wait, said Fitch. He was still holding the plans of the house in one hand while rummaging around where Mabel was going to sleep with them with the other. Her torch is missing too, and according to this plan, there is a secret door somewhere inside this closet. Okay, said Ward, let's check it out. The three remaining members of the Brain Box Club all began to feel round the walls. I was feeling very scared, and I tried not to show it. Look for a hidden lever or a hole like this not hole, said Fridge, pushing his finger into a depression in the wood. Suddenly, the back of the closet swung round to reveal a secret staircase leading down into darkness. We stared down and amazed. Mabel, Chapter 5, The Secret Passage. Mabel, we called down the stairs and are you there, Mabel? Suddenly we heard Mabel's laugh and saw her torch beam. Isn't this marvelous? She called as she came running up the stone steps towards us. A secret stairway? Come on, let's see where it goes, Sonia. I only got halfway down when you called me. We all plunged down into the stairs, into the darkness, following Mabel with her torch. The stone steps seemed to go down and around for ages. Suddenly they stopped. We found ourselves in a narrow passage that wound around behind the back of a brick fireplace. This must be the library fireplace, exclaimed Mabel softly. We all looked up. Two narrow beams of light shone across the passageway. They looked very old. Peepholes, said Fritz. Yes, agreed Rory. And do you know where they are? They're in that painting of Reginald Price. I knew there was something strange about those eyes, I said. We took turns climbing up onto the bricks and peeping through the holes in the wall. We could see the whole library lit up by the light of the moon. Isn't this amazing? Asked Abel. It's weird, replied. Suddenly Fridge grabbed me and put his fingers to his lip. There's someone coming along this passage, he whispered. Mabel gasped. You don't think it's the god? Quickly she turned off a torch and we all crouched down behind the fireplace. We could hear footsteps getting closer and closer. And whatever it was carrying a torch too. A ghost don't carry torches. It had to be a person, I thought to myself. We didn't dare breathe. But just as the ghost got to the back of the brick fireplace, it stopped. We heard it muttering and feeling around the bricks for something. The next moment, part of the wall swung back. For a second, moonlight from the library flooded into the secret passage, but then the wall swung closed and it was dark again. Who is it, Ed? And what's he doing here? Roy climbed up to the painting and looked through the peephole. He could clearly see a man moving around in the room. Is it a ghost? Asked Mabel. What does it look like? It's not a ghost. The man, he's wearing jeans and a sweater. He's looking for something. We'll have to call the police, said Mabel. They will never believe a bunch of kids, said Breach. I thought quickly. Lori, you always carry a pad and pencil with you, don't you? Yeah, the police might believe us if we can help identify him, said Fitch. I'm onto it, said Lori. I'll sketch him. Chapter 6, The Trap. The next morning we told Aunt Agatha all that had happened. Lori showed her his sketch too. Aunt Agatha went, why, that's Mr. Watson from the Historical Society. The society used to visit me sometimes to look at the house. Mr. Watson used to borrow books from my library. Then that's where he found out about the secret passage, said Lori. You'll have to go to the police, said Mabel to Aunt Agatha. I've been to the police. But they just laughed when I told them I thought there was a ghost in my house. But this is even worse. Mr. Watson is a very important man in this town. He owns the shopping mall in High Street. The police won't arrest him without some real evidence. Fidge stopped fidgeting, which is always a sign that he has had an idea. I have a plan, said Fidge. I think we can help catch Mr. Watson for the police. That afternoon, we put Fidge's plan into action. First, we found a secret stone trapdoor in the middle of the library floor. We hauled it up and shone our torches down into the hall. A ladder led down into a very small room with no way out. A great place to trap our ghost, said Fidge. Next to Rory drew a treasure map. He stained the paper with tea and burnt the edges on a candle to make it really old. This is the bait for a trap, said Fidge. As he folded the treasure map up, he hid it in one of the books the ghost had not yet looked at. He left a part of the map sticking out. All we have to do now is wait for a ghost, said Fidge. We turned off all the lights in the house and then made our way to the attic. Even Aunt Agatha was excited. This is like in the movies, she said. Mabel opened the secret door at the back of the cupboard, and we all went down the secret staircase. This time we waited until halfway up the stair. We didn't want to bump into a ghost. We were just thinking a ghost wasn't going to show up, and Mabel suddenly started waving frantically. He was coming. Just like the night before, he opened the secret door on the other side of the library fireplace. Then he closed the door behind him. Fidge quickly climbed up on the brick so he could peep through the eyes of the painting of Reginald Price. He's found the map already, he whispered to Aunt Agatha. I better get ready, said Aunt Agatha. This is so exciting, Mabel. Please call the police now while Lori and I get into position. Aunt Agatha had given Mabel her mobile phone. Mabel went upstairs to call the police, tell them that a trespasser was in the house. Aunt Agatha and Lori made their way back up the steps to the attic after her. Then they tiptoed down the main staircase to the library door. The door was shut, but they could see very clearly through the keyhole. Meanwhile, Fidge was watching from the painting. He saw Mr. Watson holding the treasure map and grinning crazily. I found the treasure at last, Mr. Watson muttered to himself. It didn't take him long to find the trapdoor in the middle of the floor. He yanked it up and immediately began to climb down the wooden ladder. That's strange, whispered Aunt Agatha. I think my great-great-grandfather's painting just winked at me. That's a signal to move in, Aunt Agatha hissed Rory. Oh yeah, let's go then. Together they pulled open the door and rushed into the library. With one heave, the heavy stone trapdoor fell back into place. Gotcha, shouted Lori. And the police are on their way, said Mabel as she came through the hidden door next to the fireplace. Police arrived just after we had trapped Mr. Watson. Of course, they were very surprised when Aunt Agatha showed them her ghost. It's off to jail with you, Mr. Watson, they said as they take him. Well done, the police officer said as she shook Aunt Agatha's hand. Well, I couldn't have done it without the Brain Box Club, Aunt Agatha replied. We were very happy about the praise we received from everyone, but we were even happier that we had solved the case of Aunt Agatha's ghost. The end.